Welcome to Unsigned 518. I'm here with Aaron Holland of Skull Mason. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. And we just met, probably 7 or 8 minutes ago, just like a couple minutes ago. And I said that's like kind of how I like to roll the show. Like I like it to be just a natural conversation rather than an interview, because I always think of an interview as like questions, and sometimes it can be uncomfortable and stuff. So we're just hanging out, and I'm getting to know about Skull Mason. But the one thing I do know about Skull Mason is that as of right now, it's basically you, right?
Yeah, it's a solo project of sorts. I have a couple prospects for potential members, but nothing really solid yet.
And we'll circle back to that and talk about the search for members, I guess. But
Great.
I guess right now, kind of go back and tell everybody the story of Skull Mason, like how it came to be, where it is at this point.
Okay, so I've been in the Albany music scene for quite a while. Some of you might have heard of my old band, Straight Through Sanity. It's kind of like a thrash metal band. So we were gigging for about 20 years. We done Saratoga Winners, Bogies, all the classic clubs, Trick Shots, all that. I recently stepped down from that band. Basically felt, creatively at a standstill, I guess you could say. So I stepped down just to focus on writing new songs, and over the course of the years in the music scene, I've made friends, one of them being my buddy Jared, who invited me over to record some demos. Started posting some of those demos onto my socials and had people reaching out to me as far as turning it into an actual musical project. One of those people would be Chris Williams, actually a drummer out in the UK. He plays in a band called Gamma Bomb, plays in a band called Shrapnel. He's got a new project called Struck a Nerve. Really great drummer. This guy's like, hey, so I see you're doing these demos. I'm digging them. Are you looking for some live drums? I was like, hell yeah. Sent him the demos. He knocked them out in like 2 days in the studio. So now I go back to Jared. I'm like, hey, man, I got these drums recorded. I'd like to record some proper guitars and some vocals and whatnot, and that turned into a proper recording. And I start sharing some clips of this on the internet, and now I have an artist reaching out to me. Hey, you looking for some artwork for your project? I'm like, sure. So now I got some sweet artwork. And then my friend Dan of Danimal Sound reaches out to me. He's like, hey, man, you looking for a mix? I'm like, sure. So it all kind of happened very organically. I just, was just trying to be creative, wanted to write songs and record songs, and it turned into something that I'm actually really proud of. And, I can't not do something with it. I want to turn it into a band, start gigging again. So here we are. And
so like that's, basically... and I didn't know for sure, but I kind of thought, looking at your socials, and I said I don't do any research. I do light research or whatever, but so that, I realized that it's a solo project, and I, and I was wondering in the back of my head, like, because we scheduled this weeks ago, but I was like, I wonder if he's looking for people or if it's just so like you're actively trying to find people to fill roles within Skull Mason.
I am. Yep. And, like I said, there's some prospects. I go to shows, I talk to people, and, a lot of guys are down to jam, and people that I'm friends with, so I'm really excited about it. But the tough part's the drummer. So I'm still, like I said, I've talked to a couple people, but everybody's busy. If you are familiar with the Albany metal scene, there's like only a handful of drummers, and they're all in like 5 or 6 bands already. Right. So it's tough. Everybody's got jobs. We got families, and I totally understand, people being unable to commit.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And like I was saying, even before we got rolling, it was like one of the reasons I don't do a ton of research because I don't have any fucking time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I have so much shit going on that when it comes to podcast day, like I look at this day, like, because I record everything on Sundays. So I, stack 3 or 4 on a Sunday. That's where I do all my recording. And I kind of look at these days as like relaxing, because I'm like, all I got to do is talk to musicians. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a bad setup here too. We're just hanging out. The dog's here.
Yeah, it's air conditioning. I mean, we had to turn the air conditioning off to record, but
for audio reasons.
But it was nice and air conditioned. Yeah, and again, I just hang out in this room and smoke weed and talk to musicians. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So. But enough about me. So what year? Like, how new is Skull Mason? Like months, a year, like
in
years?
terms of it being announced to the public.
No, I guess like in terms of when is the time that you were writing the songs and like coming up with the idea and the name Skull Mason and.
So, I guess a couple years maybe.
Okay.
It's a collection of riffs and demos that I just kept on compiling and refining until it was. So I don't know when the exact date of when you'd say it would start would be, but I've been working on this project probably a couple years.
Okay.
I didn't really have a name for it. It was just, writing songs. This is kind of what I do when I daydream. I'm thinking about music.
It is a cool name, man.
Yeah.
It's a name that stands out.
It's tough because a lot of the cool names are taken, and then this one just kind of a little background on me. I'm a mason. I work with brick, stone, block, and stuff like that. And, so that is kind of, I think of as a pretty badass trade.
Sure.
And metal is a badass music, so it kind of worked with it. And then just throw the word skull in front of it, and you got a band name.
Yeah. So do we want to play a Skull Mason song?
Sure.
Which one do we? Is this one of the ones with like the drummer from overseas or?
Yep, Chris Williams. All the songs have him on it.
Nice.
We just completed a 8-song CD. I think the first one I'd like to share is the first single that I released. It's called Thrash Machine.
Okay, cool. So let's listen to Thrash Machine, Skull Mason, and we'll be right back to talk to Aaron Holland.
Right on.
All right, that was Thrash Machine, Skull Mason. And, you were saying while we were listening to the song, quite loud in here, by the way, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I love that living in the country. I could just crank that shit super loud at noon on a Sunday and nobody cares. But it's not just you on the record. You said that obviously the drummer was Chris Williams.
Chris Williams, yeah.
And then who else is on the track?
So on the album as a whole, I received a good deal of help on this song in particular. I'm doing guitars, lead and rhythm with vocals. Jared Weed, the guy who recorded me, he does the second lead, and then we had a guest spot for vocals and the third solo by David Secord of the band Incontinence. Jared played bass as well. He helped me out a good deal on this record.
And so, clearly, in listening to that, when you say thrash, I mean, I always think of, whenever anybody says thrash, I always think of Slayer.
Of course.
They're like the kings of thrash. But, clearly Skull Mason is a little different. You wouldn't just say, oh, yeah, it's just like. So how would you describe, I guess, Skull Mason and how it's different from, your straight-up thrash band?
If you were to listen to the CD, I think you'd notice a little bit more dynamics, I guess you could say. Not that thrash can't be dynamic, but I don't think that's something people would normally associate with the genre.
Unless you include the sound of thunder every once in a while.
Right, yeah, exactly. A couple sound clips, yeah. I got some acoustic passages, clean channels, some keyboards. So I grew up on bands like Megadeth and Slayer and Testament, all those old school thrash bands. But I'm also really into prog metal, power metal, death metal, traditional metal bands like Maiden and Priest. So I think maybe you'll hear some of those influences. Like I said, dynamics within the genre was something I was going for. I don't think we needed, Slayer Part 2. Not that I'm necessarily capable of making that, but I just tried to keep it very organic and not contrived, I guess you could say. So whatever I was feeling when I picked up the guitar, that's kind of what showed up. And people have told me it's thrash metal. I don't know.
Well, and I love the idea of taking influences. It's just like being a fucking chef or something. You take this little this
variety's the spice of life.
Variety, and it's the way you mix them is how you get something original. So I love hearing thrash, and you're like, but there's some keyboards and an acoustic guitar.
Yeah,
it's all right, that's way different than you would never hear an acoustic guitar on a Slayer album.
I think every song will have some new ingredient if we're gonna go with the cooking thing,
right?
To make it a distinct song from the song before it or after it. That was just kind of important for me. Every song has its own personality and a reason to exist, kind of.
And how much material do you have out currently?
Well, I've released 3 singles. The one we just heard, Thrash Machine. Another one called Finally Awake. And I just dropped one, I think last week, called Past Life Haunting. But that being said, we do have a full album. I say we, but I have a full album.
The royal we.
Yeah, exactly. Coming out September 8th. I'm going to drop it. 8 songs long. I think around 40 minutes. During the sessions creating this album, I actually wrote and recorded 11 songs. We released 8 of them, and the other 4, plus maybe I'll do a acoustic intro or something like that, or an outro. So a 5-song EP will probably be released next year. And that one's got some really cool stuff on it too, including a 8-minute long closer called The Dying Trade, which is kind of tongue in cheek because that's what people call masonry.
So you've got some stuff out, you've got some stuff already recorded. And on all the recorded stuff, the 11 songs that you did, is that kind of the same lineup?
Yep, the lineup's the same. There's another guest spot, and that's actually on the second single, Finally Awake, by Jeff Caro of the band Malefic. He's the man. He's an OG of the Albany metal scene. He's been around forever, and I was honored. We reached out, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I'll lay down a solo for you," and he just killed it. It's one of my favorite parts in the whole album.
Going forward, looking to fill permanent roles, and are you looking to book gigs and play out live and record with a solid lineup?
Yep, I'm definitely looking to get a lineup together and start playing gigs. It's frustrating. I'm actually having people reaching out because I guess it's not apparent that it's a solo project, so they think I'm a gig-ready band.
Right. Right.
Which just isn't the case, unfortunately. So, there's a guitarist and a bassist that seem interested, but without the drummer, we're kind of, just playing the waiting game. So, if there's any drummers out there, feel free to reach out.
And how would they contact you? Like, what's your handle on like social or?
So I'm Aaron Holland. That's AARON, and you could message me directly on any of those or the Skull Mason page, Skull Mason Official on Instagram, and just Skull Mason on Facebook.
Sweet.
Yep.
And so you're looking for a drummer, bass,
and guitarist,
and like someone who can kind of bounce back and forth. I mean, clearly, having listened to the song, like they've got to have some fucking chops.
Yeah, they got they got to shred for sure.
Yeah.
And there's no shortage of talent. Like I said before, it's just a matter of interest and availability.
Right.
The talent's definitely there in the Albany scene.
Yeah, for sure. And so the band's based right out of Albany, then.
Yeah, we would be within reason. I mean, we'll travel,
right.
a little bit. We got to be flexible.
Sure. All right. Well, do we want to hear another song?
Yeah, sure. I think it would be more interesting to show the dynamics of the record to play Past Life Haunting next. Maybe you can hear some of those clean channel guitars and some keyboards.
All right, so let's check out Past Life Haunting, Skull Mason, and we'll be right back to wrap it up with Aaron Holland. right, that was Past Life Haunting, Skull Mason. And Aaron, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come up and do this. I really appreciate it. And before we go, I want to give you a chance to say what I refer to as your gratitudes.
Great. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Andy.
You're very welcome.
This is a really cool opportunity for me, maybe get some new listeners and maybe even a live band to play with.
Right. We'll make it happen.
And it's just really cool that you give people in the 518 a spotlight like this. I'd like to thank my wife because she's really flexible with me doing this and throughout the years with my previous band. I'd like to thank the guys who helped me make the record, Jared Weed, guitar and bass. David Secord, he did the guest vocals on Thrash Machine, Jeff Caro on Finally Awake. Danny Danimal Lee, the owner of Danimal Sound, did a really good job on the mixing of this album. And Machine, the producer, who did the mastering. I'd like to thank just the Albany scene in a whole.
All right, so that is Aaron Holland of Skull Mason. I am Andy Scullin. This is Unsigned 518, and I'll see you on the road.
Later.
Unsigned 518 is produced and hosted by me, Andy Scullin. New episodes are available every week wherever you stream podcasts. If you'd like to help support the show, please like and subscribe wherever you are listening. Or you could buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/unsigned518. If you would like to advertise on the show, send me an email at unsigned518@gmail.com. And to be a guest on the show, reach out to me through Instagram at unsigned518. Take care of one another, and I'll see you next week.